I am. Right. You have that.
All right. 13 chat items there.
Yeah, they're all from before. We're gathering a lot of different.
Really
All right. On, if you're on Zoom, can you hear us? See your screen? Yeah, I actually think the computer we're using to record this is not connecting to the internet, which is not working. But I don't hear anyone on this. Does that look like it's working? Yes, I have 17 chats here and they're not showing up. Yes, they can hear us, yeah, but that's not showing up on the computer we're recording with. And it's not telling me that it's being recorded, so. And you're not, yeah, that screen is frozen. Maybe it's not. I want to make sure you guys have this. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're recording. Valerie is going to share with us.
Okay, so since I'm, again, very new, I'm not going to present anything very technical, but I'm just going to run over a couple of optional things that we sent these sequences out in August. They're just a couple of one-page sequences, and the one for sure is optional, but I think proof parcels is something that most counties do. The list of parcels that represents various scenarios in your county. It might be something like parcels with various assessment codes or a lot of specials, or maybe it's for a particular taxpayer. The list is shared by all the offices and it's saved from year to year. And it's used to prove your notice of evaluation, your TNTs and your tax statements. This can be generated separately, but the parcels are marked in the outsourcer file as proof parcels so that you can check them before they go to printing. Okay, and just to get to the menu option, it's in your auditor's menu. Option 23, the custom options, and number 7, sorry, proof parcels for your maintenance listing and listing. And then when you click on 7, or when you choose option 7, it goes right to the end of your list where you can add. I guess that's not my next slide, but if you were to get a message like the one shown here, is because the parcel was deleted in your maintenance, and you get this warning. You basically have to choose yes to delete it from your proof list, and then you can put in a comparable parcel if you want to add to your listing of parcels. So again, when you have your listing that comes up, you can input a new parcel. You just click enter the parcel number field, exit, and it will load the name and address. At the bottom, you have your options: F5 to update, F21 to print the listing, or F23 to delete the parcel off of the list. The other optional item that you can do is to create a name and address PDP file. This will help get so many items returned, saving time and money. It's used by your outsourcers to check the names and addresses using the different USPS databases that they use. And then anything that's questionable, they'll return to you, updated in your system. And to run that listing, again, tax in 23 again for your extra options, and taking option 11 will print your taxpayer name and address, and then it generates in your tax bill folder. So that's all I have.
I'm going to talk about the auditors cross county, which is also related to your TNT process. A few housekeeping items before starting the cross county, clear out any excess inputted taxes from the previous year. You want to maintain your carryover credits and clear out those excess credits that you have had from before. Those don't automatically clear out. Also, do a little check with your assessor to make sure that they have completed and inputted all the values for the cross county wide records and your cross county end records. And then that they have calculated tax capacity once all of those have been complete. You want to calculate taxes and share your excess credits for your wide home county records. Once your assessor has certified that they have inputted all values of calculated tax capacity, they're going to refer to your TNT sequence, because this is kind of plopped in the middle. And taxes will need to be calculated and approved. And then this will calculate the excess credit values needed that you'll be either doing for yourself or sharing with your neighboring counties. You're going to maintain list your carryover credits by going into obviously 13, list carryover credits, and option number 2, and then that's going to calculate all those extra credits that are either for you or for your neighbor. Again, that report is going to be for your end counties also. So that report that you shared with your neighboring county, they're going to also be sharing with you. If they use CPT, it's going to look the same. If they're not from CPT, it's going to look a little different. And you maybe won't receive any excess credits from your neighboring county. Maybe they have all these enough and they don't have anything to share with you. But you can use that listing that you just printed off of your neighboring counties, and then you can input your excess credit onto there. And that's all I got. Don't ask me anything. Yeah.
Last year, Julie shared, our IFS interface, more details about that. So we're gonna do that again this year at this meeting, but we do continue to encourage. I think we've helped how many counties set it up this past year? 2 to 3. And I think we have a couple more that are working on it, and if somebody come talk to me today. So we are happy to help you keep going. It's not a bad idea to set it up this time of year and then be able to run it along with your other stuff for your settlements and kind of prove back and forth, see how it's working. So reach out to Julie, or any of us, and we'll send you to Julie if you have questions about that IFS interface. I'm going to buzz through the TNT sequence here. I do have a couple of questions for you in the middle, but mostly I'm going to show those of you who are maybe newer how this works. So when you're looking at your TNT sequence, just a note, you can do steps 3 and 14 at any point now. You don't have to wait till you get to that point in the sequence. You can go add your fund descriptions if you know they're there at any point, and you can go put in your tax and through the taxation meeting information as soon as you know it at any point. You don't have to wait until October when you're ready to clear your rates out to do those 2 steps. Just keep it in mind that when you hit step 4, where you're going to clear out your rates, pull it in from your assessors, that's where you have to pause changing any of your values, anything that's going to affect those TNTs until we get the TNTs out the door. That's the point where we pause. You start the TNT sequence. You want to do power lines, and then you want to go to your assessor. We do include that TIF TC calc in there now, so you don't have to do that separately. And then again, like Liz said, Val's old thing, like calculate, accumulate, list. We need them to calculate their TC, accumulate their abstract, and then list it for you. Step 3 in the sequence, well, that's steps 1 and 2 of our sequence. Step 3 is maintaining your fund descriptions. And you need to, any fund that you want to use, you need to have description line in here for it. You don't have to put your item numbers in now, but you do have to have them in for Prism 3. So it's not a bad idea to look at them. The reference for that went out last spring. We don't send it out with the T&Ts, but if you need it, reach out and we can get it to you. Then we're going to talk a little bit about rate types. In the sequence, here's the listing that you'll see of the rate types. You can see in the orange, the 3 and 4, they go together, right? That's your township and any rural service districts that might be in those township cities. And then on the right, we have like our replacement rates. So if you have something in type 1 county that the one township city doesn't pay, you put that in type 11. If you have a countywide that one township or city doesn't pay or some don't pay, you put that rate type 12. And if you have an extra countywide in 42 that some don't pay, you put that in 43. So those are combined. And when we're looking back and proofing our rates, just keep in mind that those rates are related to each other. And if your totals are off, that's where you should be looking for that info. Another thing to think about when you're inputting your rates, so for your descriptions, if you have a type 1 county and you know you're going to need it's an exclusion rate or an exception rate, you need to put that into 11. If you have the type 2 and it has an exclusion rate, you also need to put that in 12. That's what I was getting at here. When you're putting in descriptions, you have to put them in both places. Also, when you're putting in descriptions, if you're looking at school, we have a few things to keep in mind. If you look at the bottom in red, we tell you whether the rate, we mark the rate as other or voter based on the number that you pick. You have to know whether it's other or voter and put it in the appropriate number category in order to get that. Also, if you have a type 5, which is the tax capacity school rate, that's eligible for the Minnesota statute school building bond ag tax credit, you need to mark Y in that debt column. That's what that debt column is for, are those rates. And you can get that info from, where do we get it from? I looked at those specifically. Was the school, what state entity has those?
Education.
The Department of Education has those school bond ag tax credits. And they can send you listings for each of those, that each school district that tells you which ones are ag credit. Okay, once you're ready, this is the point where you're pausing, making changes to your values for this year. You're going to clear out your rate file. You're going to go into 11. We suggest you go into 11. You list your rates, or make sure you have your rate list from last year. Then you're going to go into number 1, and you're going to choose to clear out your rates. Type in continue to clear out your rates. That's going to clear out your rates, and it's going to pull all your tax capacities from your current assessor's abstract. So make sure your assessor's abstract is done. We typically only do this once because we don't want to clear out our rates a second time. But if you get into a situation where you have all the wrong values, then you might actually do it again and start over. Then we're inputting our rates. When you go to input your rates, double check. We give you the date your assessor's abstract was last accumulated. Every year, there's somebody who says, oh yeah, my assessor gave it to me, it was on this date. The assessor calculated and listed and forgot to accumulate, which means their listing does not have the current calculation in it. So just check your date to make sure it's the date that you think it's going to be. And if it's not, contact your assessor or contact us and we'll help you contact your assessor. When you're putting in your rate type, so the rate type and the taxing district, keep in mind you can have 2 prompts. If you can't remember what's there, you can do that to like pull up your options and what you need, your available rates and districts. At this point, you're ready to share your tax capacity or your market value with your neighbors. When you're inputting your rates for shared rates, you're going to need those tax capacities, and so are they. Once you're to this point, you can share those tax capacities with your neighbors. Then once you go in to input your rates, keep in mind that our tax capacity at the top right here, or your market value, if it's a market value rate, and then your power line and your tip, those are gonna load automatically. But if you have a rural service district, you're gonna need to put that in here as a subtraction. Or an exception rate, you're gonna need to put that in here as a subtraction. Or if you have a neighboring county, you're gonna need to put that in here as an addition, before your rates will calculate correctly. And then you're gonna input your levy or your rate down here in the corner. Now, my understanding is that if you are the home county, you probably have a levy to put in here. And if you are not the home county, later in our sequence, you're probably gonna get a rate from whatever the home county is, and you're gonna put that in here. Is that correct? Anyone did not do it that way? Okay. So then once you put that in here, you hit F5 to go to the detail screen. In your detail screen, you're gonna put your fund numbers. These are the numbers we set up in the previous step. On your detail screen, you're gonna put in the fund number, and then over here, you're gonna put the levy. If you put in a levy, you have to put in levy amounts. If you put in a rate, you have to put in rate amounts. We'll make you do that. Keep in mind as you go through that by the time you're done, this total here at the bottom has to match the gross amount that you put on your first screen. And you'll add 5 to update when you're finished. The exception to that rule of totals is if you have an additional rate. On county, you can do an additional rate. This tends to be like the library that one of the cities doesn't pay, right? If you have an additional rate at the bottom here, you have to put in, yes, I have an additional rate. That means we will not make your total match your total. When you hit F5, instead of getting kicked out, you go back to that original screen. And it's going to be an additional rate. You're going to go through these screens once more for your additional rate. It'll be marked additional rate, additional rate. This example is the type 1 county where you have like a library that one city doesn't pay. You're going to go and find the tax capacity for that city, and you're going to put it as a subtraction in your additional rate. Then when you F5 forward, when you F5 forward, you're going to put that rate into your the levy into your rate type 1 and look at what the rate is here for it, and go back to your type 11 and put it in as a negative. So if we're charging it to the library in type 1, but then in type 11, we're doing a negative charge and it becomes a wash and they're not paying it. Once you put in all your rates, you're going to proof. You can list 11 and proof to last year's listing, because if there's something missing, you can usually like see it as a line item. The types of things that tend to be missing are like those additional rates, your 11, your 12, your 43. Sometimes you're going to take your state tax, your type 10, because you did get it from somebody, you forgot to put it in. Or we'll often see an addition or subtraction that's missing. I'll show you what those look like. So here's what I mean by the 11. You know, if you have a county, if you have an additional rate, here's your base screen. And then here's your additional rate screen, the second portion here in red. And that data should match whatever you have in type 11, where you've got a rate that's in, the same rates out, tax capacity that's in as a subtraction. And that would be for the 11, 12, 43. The next thing that you would look for. I think I lost. The next thing that you would look for is a type 10. You just have to make sure you put those state rates in. You need a commercial, industrial, and seasonal rec for your rate type 10. And then I'm just missing an addition subtraction. Keep in mind, if you have like a rate type 4 rural service district, you have to have that in as a subtraction in your rate type 3. If you have a city school that you share with a neighboring county, you have to put that neighboring county in there. Those are the things that you're looking for on that rate listing. Like, did you have an addition last year and you don't this year? Did you have a subtraction last year and you don't this year? It's a really easy spot to catch all that stuff. The other thing you do to prove is you calculate, accumulate, list. Go into your taxes, calculate your taxes, accumulate your tax totals, list your tax totals. You can prove your tax totals back to your rates. So if you're looking at my initial tax rates, your county net levy should prove to your county totals, county tax. Your county-wide gross levy should prove to your county-wide tax. When we're looking at cities, You want to do a township listing, so that you're seeing by township. And your city will match your city unless you have a rural service district. If you have a rural service district, then your combined type 3 and type 4 should prove to that township total. Now, we do also have a rural service district listing, and your rural service district levy should prove to your total, your city township total on that rural service district tax totals listing. Schools get even more complicated because it seems like more and more schools are shared between counties. So again, you will get this in written form, but and if somebody else thinks that they do this better than I'm doing it here, by all means speak up and help, because we do get questions about this. But if I'm looking in red at my like gross type 5, my tax capacity levy, this 3 million I'm paying part of and my neighbor's paying part of. So I'm going to take my portion, which is going to be my net minus my power line. This is my county's portion. Which we didn't take out that power line, did we? Oh, thankfully it's not much. And then we divide it by the total tax capacity. We're going to pay 0.526 blah, blah, blah of this. I take that gross levy times my 0.526 and I get what my county's portion is. That's what should really be proving to this school tax that's on the school total. Same thing for your type 35, that tax capacity. You're going to take your county's portion divided by the total, multiplied by the levy, and that should prove to the total that's on your sheet. Now, when you share information with your neighboring school, you're giving them the rate. Do you ever give them the like, this is about the amount we expect you to take in? Yes, some counties do.
Now we do after an issue.
There was an issue, so now like, the amounts are shared. Not a bad idea to say like, we expect to take in about this amount. Here's your rate. We expect you to take in about that amount. If they give you that, you can prove this, backward for their levy amounts. But that's, does anyone do a better job proving this than this? Or is this kind of how we do it?
I think there's quite a few of us that probably have a spreadsheet that calculates it all by ourselves, and then we compare it to the tax system to make sure. So in my county, I have that where then I have sections that calculate so that I compare to that.
You've got this set up in Excel.
Yeah.
And the math you have it doing in Excel is similar to the math I have up here. I'll send you this, and if it's significantly different, you can share your Excel. I think
you probably have better.
if you're willing to.
Did I give you mine? I don't remember.
Or we can get somebody else that is sharing their Excel. Because I do think that new people who take over, like, how much are we proofing this? We don't really know. The less you proof, the more likely you are to get bit later. So.
But if you have that extra tool, then you know you're not forgetting a rate.
Yeah, she's saying if you have that extra tool, then you know you're not forgetting your rate. Like having it multiple places, multiple ways to prove is not a bad idea. Okay, then at this point, once you've done, like you put all of your levies in, you've done your tax capacity calc, you've checked your tax totals, now you can share your rates with your neighbors, and they can share their rates with you and input adjoining. This is the point where you would share your rates with your neighbors, correct? The thought that I had, this is when you share your tax capacity, here's where you're sharing your rates with your neighbors. We have not had those in our sequences before, but that's what I seem to have seen and what makes sense to me. You're going to get incoming rates from your neighbors. Here's an example of the rate you probably get where like this school district is shared. So we've got our tax capacity. We're going to put in the rate. You have to put the decimal here. These are typically schools, sometimes cities. And then you go to your second screen and here you're putting in your fund numbers and your rates that they shared with you. And you can do the same proofing things, list and proof to last year's, list and proof to what they told you, your rate, calculate, accumulate, list your tax totals, proof that back to your levies. You want to do a really good proof here at this point because once you put in your disparity, it's a lot harder to prove. So you want to make sure you feel really, really, really good about this before you move forward and start putting in your disparity. You get that sheet from the state that tells you about disparity reduction aid. For those of you who are new and this looks like gobbledygook, I had suggested going into your system file and printing your detailed taxing districts. Because you can go and look at this state taxing district, figure out what one it is on your list. And then here is your CPT taxing district that goes with your state taxing district. So then we go into our option 4 to do our local tax rates. That's where you input your disparity reduction aid. And you're going to take, remember we found this from our state list, which is this in our CPT, and you're going to put it in down here, or that'll be at the top of your screen.
Maybe this is just Big Stone, but for some reason, the state's 00 is our 01 watershed. And so you have to be careful of that. You want to make sure you're doing the right number, which is really weird. I don't know why they can't be the same, but.
The state districts are made in like the order that they were created. So whatever the first one was, it's going to be 00 for the state. So sometimes for the state, you'll have like a 00, a 01, and a 04. No, 02 and 03, because they existed, but they went away, but they're used for the state. Whereas for ours, we're not looking at the order they were created. We're looking at all the details. So there's not going to be that correlation. You do have to just do once you get good at this, I'll show you a different way. Probably people who are doing this forever aren't listing these, but it can be really confusing. So if you're new to it, having the separate sheet where you know you're getting the right one can be helpful. Once you get into that local district, the state district list's over here, and you can proof back to make sure it's there. And again, when you get good at this, maybe you just know this only has 2 and I can figure it out. This, but to begin with, it's nice to have that reference. Then you're going to put the county amount into the county amount, school amount, school amount. If there's a city or township, you'll put that into the city or township. And we will use it, recalculate, tell you what your old rate was, what your new rate was. Keep in mind that you cannot decrease your rate below 90%. So if your rate is already below 90%, even if you put something in, we're not going to use it because you can't decrease it. Another situation we see is where you have like a lot of aid. I made this up obviously, but you have a lot of aid. Your rate is going to hover above 90% because you cannot make it go below 90%. So you can see you put in this aid. We used as much of it as we could. If we took another $1 off, you'd go below 80%, or if we took another however much we'd have to do to get it spread out. So we will use as much of that aid as we can without breaking the rules, and you usually end up like right above that 90%. Then you would go into your listing, that option 11 list. Option 2 is doing your disparity reduction in your local TC. If you did that when you're inputting these, it's going to be listed here in the middle. So here's all your local rates, there are all your initial tax rates, and then here's the disparity for each district. And you can just scroll through, a lot of these will be empty, and proof it to make sure you got the disparity amounts in there correctly. Oh, here we go, here's my proof. So you would look here in this column. This is going to go to your county, this is going to go to your school. They're in the corresponding lines on your sheet. Once you're done with that, then you're going to calculate accumulated list. Again, it's hard to prove. The change should be about equal to the disparity reduction amount, which is going to be here. Disc red info, but it's not always exactly because of rounding and things like that. Okay, so we've had some conversations in our office about the TNT or the cross-county sequence, auditor's cross-county sequence, which basically has 2 steps that Julie walked you through, like make sure your assessor did everything they need to do, and then share and input excess ag credits. This is when you would be doing that. Like you've done your final calc and you know exactly how much ag credits you're going to get, and you would share it, correct? This is about where we're sharing it. Does it make sense to just put that as a step? It would be in TNT and tax prep and calc 3? Or do you always remember to reference that cross-county sequence? But to me, we're like 15 pages pages into a sequence, and now I have to remember to pull out my other sequence and finish this off? Is there any reason why we would not ditch the cross-county sequence and add 2 steps to TNT and tax prep and calc? Would be the beginning of tax prep and calc 2 and the middle of tax prep and calc 3, like make sure you do these steps. So that will happen in the spring. I mean, for right now, you have these 2. That will happen in the spring, and we'll incorporate that here, because this is where you would share your ag credits after step 13 or so. After you've inputted your neighbor rates, after you've inputted your disparity reduction aid. Now, if you have excess ag credits, they do list, I mean, we didn't go through them this year, but there are some listings that go as you calculate accumulate list, and excess ag credits is one of them. So you can go do it separately, or you can just take that and share it. Okay, so up to this point, all these steps would be like the same or similar for tax prep. Here's where we break off. This is the true TNT step. It's going to be in your tax step 24. You go to 10 for truth and taxation setup and notices. Here's your step 14 that you can do at any point here. You take 1 through 3 to input your meeting information. When you go in, you have to put in like your county name, your address, phone number, comments, time and place. This stuff will like print on your TNT notices, right? When as you move forward or when you're done, you can take forward and print it and proof it, have somebody else proof it, compare. Once that looks good, you can move on to printing. Once that looks good and you're done with all the first steps, you can move on to printing. We have in-house printing and outsource printing. If you print in-house, you're going to take option 5. You're gonna have to work with Sue. If you plan to work with Sue, if you plan to print in-house, Sue would like to be contacted like whenever you have a date in mind for working with her to get this set up. Not now, so that you're like, hey, I'm gonna wanna work with you, but we don't know when, and not the day of, like, I would like to do it today, are you free in 5 minutes? Because she doesn't need 10 counties calling her saying, I would like to work today, are you free in 5 minutes? Maybe like a week or 2 before. When you have some idea when you're going to want to do this, please contact Sue and get on her calendar. You'll start with your proof parcels. You'll work through your batches. You can print any of these options multiple ways. You're getting smaller batches. What you really want to do, no matter how you're listing, is take note of your alternate taxpayer. You want to answer that correct, the same every time. So if anytime you see an option where it says, would you like us to print alternate taxpayer? If you say yes, we will print the alternate taxpayer on there if there is one. And if there isn't one, we print your normal taxpayer. If you say no, we just put the taxpayer on it, whether there's an alternate or not. So those are your 2 options. And however how your county does it, you want to do it the same every time. The next step, step 16, option 7, everyone needs to do this. I know it says create outsource file, but this is your LTNT/outsource/web file. So everybody needs to do this. You're going to go to step 7 again, alternate taxpayer question. You should answer that the same. Proof parcels only. Make sure you run it once with not proof parcels only. That pre-sort plus question, that is, you only say yes to that if your outsourcer says, we are a pre-sort plus outsourcer, please say yes. Oh, that's nobody anymore. That's an ancient question. The obvious answer is no. Then you're going to build your TNT or your TNT outsource file. The next step is to do your inquiry file. This is going to replace that in the TNT inquiry screen, replace last year's data with this year's data. Again, you want to answer that alternate taxpayer question the same way. It's this screen. So once you've done this on your inquiry truth and taxation screen, it's going to pay, say, 25, pay 26. Right now, I'm sure it says 24, pay 25. And the last thing that you can do optionally, this only works once you've run other options, is to print a summary of notices by township. So that's TNTs. Questions, comments?
No, we were talking about it. Yeah. I want to come back around. We had a Zoom meeting maybe a year and a half ago, back on tax rate, where, some counties were putting in a separate rate type per city bond issue. Has anyone updated? So I know of one, but I think it's possibly online, that condensed your rates. And Denise, you had a problem for a while, right? Because you can only put up to 99 in. Did you condense your debt?
No, because our numbers ran out. And then we had to go back and clear them up. Then we found out that if people were doing research in the settlement, we find out previous years, although those were gone, so we got rid of them. So we rebuilt the file on the backside, CPT had put everything back to normal and crossed our fingers and waiting as far as not having creating new numbers.
So it can be done. So we're talking about rate type 3 for township cities typically, where instead of like the city says, I have a 2006 bond, and then that's one line. And then now I have a 2007 bond, and that's another line, like we go line per bond, trying to condense them to do a line per type. So like it has to be like it's whatever it goes to your abstract as. So if it's like a 470, that has to be one. If it's a 475, that has to be its own line or whatever those numbers are, right? You can do that. However, we get in trouble because everything that's in your rate type, where we're dealing with our descriptions, our rate descriptions, that ties to your history. So you can only remove those if you don't have something in your history. So in order to do that, we have worked with counties to list their current and delinquent, did we do a work settlement? I think we did a work settlement for current and delinquent unpaid work settlement. And if a line in your descriptions is not in your current or delinquent unpaid settlement, then you can remove that line. If it is, you can't remove that line. So it's not that you can't clean it up, it's you have to be careful about cleaning it up.
A very structured, controlled cleanup.
Yes.
If you want help, we would walk you through that.
My county had not been one that had separated that debt out, and that's where Denise was starting to have issues. I've only ever had one debt service rate for someone like bigger city. On their levy, they certified to me they could have 10 items listed. I add them together, and that is one sweet calculation. And they have never complained to me about it. They have worked out whatever they needed to be able to break that apart on their end later.
And I do think, I know that we have at least 2 counties that went from individually to doing the combined. And if they got a lot of kickback, then tell us about it. Then tell us about it.
Are there any comments coming through?
If you're online, you can unmute or comment. We're transitioning to our group discussion portion. Michelle and Janelle have offered to kind of lead the group discussion portion. So I'm gonna ask them to like turn around so they can see you and you can see them. But we definitely are looking for input from everyone.
I have one more comment on the debt thing. I mean, realistically, the cities are responsible for their debt. So they should already be tracking that separately. And if they're not, they should be. I mean, that's a conversation that you should have with them.
Daryl back from Fairfield County. When Suzie and I walked through it in the spring for ours, we had to reset everything up since we just started. Our old system, they did have everything kind of broken out. Our new system, talking it through, we actually combined everything for most of the levies. And we have not had a city or township complain about any of that. So far, I've done well. So, I mean, it was probably the best decision that we made. And based on Susie, because then we don't have to track everything and it's just grouped together.
Maybe a little easier for Fairfield County because they can say like, we have a new system, this is the new way. But you know, you can say that too, like, oh, we changed our system, so this is the new way. Okay, so we had some panel discussion items based on questions that we've had and, I am happy based on this discussion to like make up some how-to documents. We've talked about maybe doing some report generator things for you folks. So we are looking for like sort of all opinions at this point, so we figure out how we can best support you. We like to power through the auditor certificate, form 51s and 52s, late and delinquent notices and listings, and forfeiture. Forfeitures, you know, we're dealing with them. So I think a lot of the questions are about, you know, like for example, for the auditor certificate, we have an auditor certificate that we generate in our system. Do you just generate that and send it off to somebody? Or what do you do with it? Are you proofing this? Are you adding to it? Are you comparing it with other things? For new counties or for new auditors, we have a lot of turnover. What are some best practices, tips, helpful things we can give people?
Okay, big stone for the auditor certificate. I use the one in the system. However, you do have to manually go in and enter your bond information, your employees and that kind of thing. But then I send out that statement to my bond companies and I've had no issues with it that way.
I make it very labor intense. I use the report and I put it in a spreadsheet. And that where I add in that I don't put down getting it done this in some I use our standard report that we have to create each year. And then there is the two, the way we choose it or the questions that we have in there are usually for our debt schedules for county debt. And so I have PDFs of those that kids added into those. I don't know, I have that, this is one pass that I actually, pass on staff. And that's so it's a matter of just copying last year's spreadsheet, adding the new year's data and moving on from there. I think what you guys made is good because we used all the data on there. I don't prove anything necessarily either. I trust it's got everything. Yeah.
I will look at the initial rate sheet and just see if the, you know, the assessor's abstract, whatever, and check the bottoms, so the totals are coming through okay, and I might pull a few rates or, you know, and I look at my unpaid usually just to make sure that that's correct, but, yeah. So, Janelle, I'll ask you, why do you do all that extra work?
I think it's actually maybe in presentation. I don't know, I guess not, right? I guess we sit up here together, because she tells me I do too much. And so, presentation, for a little while, there was a word misspelled in the report that caught my eye every time I printed it, so I just kind of ignored it until it got fixed, and I don't know, I guess presentation wise, it's my own professional preference. We want to know what everyone else is doing.
Is there anyone who does like more proofing or something other than what they're doing?
This is the, for course, it's the 51.
We're talking about the auditor certificate right now.
So I'm being brand new. I looked at what they had last year with what the new one for this year, and it was pretty much the same. So Fairfield County with what you add, just adding in the bond information. And technically, I didn't do it the first time until the city or school said, "Hey, where's the bond information?" Because I didn't know what's missing. Until they said, "Hey, you need to add your, you need to add."
Where's the bond information? Because we don't store that. You're gonna have to find it. Okay.
I do the same, I print it off like Michelle does. I don't want to send it out pretty quick, but then I also just attach our report notes, then you can fill this part and fill out in January. Very well, just tell all the information you need. Never had an issue.
How about anyone that, because not all of the bond issuers request the exact same information. Do you just say, this is what I got, and you move on?
Yes, the consensus is yes.
There we go.
All right. 451 and 52. We do have a 452 in our system that we generate. Now, we are under the impression that you no longer you send the Form 52 to the schools, but not to the state. You have something else that you do for the state
Yeah.
online.
It's known as the card system for Form 51 being the school tax receivable report versus Form 52 being the actual remittance for distribution. So, the Form 51, now that is in cards. Cards? Yeah. No. It's not yet. I have to still print mine this year. I don't think either of these are in cards, now that I'm saying this.
Yeah, you have to put all the information in. One or the other, you have to put all the information in it, but it doesn't really generate a report.
Now, I would say the Form 52, we were told you don't have to submit the Form 52 anymore, but there's also some new, like every 6 months, you have to do something online. That's
School tax report, right? I don't, 451 is their, after our May settlement is the receivable. Yeah. And that, is that on there yet? I don't think that's on ours. That's still, we want your CPT.
So we don't have a Form 51. What are you doing for your Form 51? We have a Form 52. Form 51. We have a Form 51?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that the 451 is the receivable. Now, for proving that, I do look at my prior year's report to make sure that the ending that I reported to them is my starting on the current year report, and that, and make sure my mobile phone stuff is out there. And then I consider it good and don't look into it any further.
Work, if you use a work settlement system and it's not generated. Pretty quick time, so. Our county, we have an auditor's office, a treasurer's office. And so you're in that situation where you're not the one generating those.
Right.
Separate, like. So in our county, the Form 51 from the CPT software will work great unless whoever is running your settlements runs it at a work settlement and doesn't use the dates. Work settlement is where you can enter in your own dates. So if you want to run a settlement just from October 16th to November 22nd, let's say, or some odd thing, and that's what you're using. If you don't run the dates that are actually in your system when you spin your system over, that Form 51 will not be accurate.
So are you running it?
Okay.
Okay, so the report says that like June 30th. So are you running a work settlement because of that? I've always just gone with whatever settlement I had. Do the 15th.
Yeah, are you talking about 51 or 52?
We're only on
Oh.
Come on.
Okay, hold on. Where is the Form 51 in our system? Can you walk me there? Oh, okay, so I have this backward. We do have a Form 51, we don't have a Form 52. Okay, yeah, like, how do we,
I have a lot more to say about remittance than I do.
Okay, so we do have a Form 51.
Yeah.
You submit this to the schools, but no longer to the state. Do you submit something else instead of it to the state?
I don't think it's on card yet. Well, I think they were.
I'm just wondering, like, you all did this way this summer.
We're all mixed up because they're adding reports on there automatically.
Yeah.
So you have what you need from us for this Form 51. Now, here's my question. Form 51 is supposed to go through June 1st, June 15th, June 30th. Mobile home tax statements go out July 15th.
Right.
So do you put your mobile homes on this one, on next year's? Does it matter? Like, because we have some counties where mobile homes go out, because they're not gonna be on any settlement at this point. Mobile homes go out.
You have to have them done first before you can form this one about how we do it.
So a lot of counties are making sure their mobile homes are done before their Form 51.
It
So your 2025 is your mobile home information.
Well, because the report isn't due till July 15th, right? Yeah, so it's the first to the 30th, like you're getting to, and then if you put the mobile home on, you have to have that done before you run the Form 51 reports to have that populated in there.
So I can't remember what county called me because they have an Excel that tells them magically what's supposed to be on their Form 51 to proof it based on their settlements. And every year they're having to do subtraction for their mobile homes because their mobile homes weren't on their settlement, right? Like they didn't, and I said, I don't know if your mobile homes are supposed to be on there or not. No. But your subtraction is your mobile home loan. That's what it is. Every year, that's what they're off. So you either have to decide that it's on or that it's off. And we're saying we think 2025 mobile home taxes are supposed to be on the 2020, like 4 to 25 Form 51.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, if you didn't have it on there the next year you did it, you have to show an ad on it, right? Yep.
Right, so like, if it's not, so, I mean, I went and I looked back and I'm like, oh yeah, so you have a subtraction for your mobile homes in addition that's the same as last year's mobile home. And then the subtraction for this year's mobile home, in addition for last year's mobile home. I mean, you have that. Now, if you run it before you do your mobile homes, I mean, we're pulling since the last time you run it. When you run this, we're pulling stuff since the last time you ran it.
Or July or June 30th. And we mailed out by July. So they should be included on the 2025.
So mobile homes are due to the treasurer by June 30th. That's why they're on there, even though they're not mailed out.
It gets muddy when we're full.
But yeah, when there's the auditor treasurer, then those deadlines matter less.
With that Form 51, I use that unpaid report that I get with the settlement to check for my bottom line totals on the Form 51. Check back to the unpaid.
When the report's generated, Glenn, it's pulling it from the unpaid. Should there ever be a difference? It would be a little glitch.
It shouldn't, but every once in a while, your settlement and your receipts listings are for fee. And so there shouldn't ever be a glitch, but every once in a while we see something and we appreciate you letting us know. So you approve this to your unpaid settlements.
On the Form 52, there isn't a system generated, but what we do to enter that is we use the tax GL reports from the GL settlement. Because that has your tax rate or your rate item in there. And so that's a way to balance that then. So then now I brought examples of what it was in the Bicycle District. One of them. That so if you have mobile home, you're gonna have two, well, technically you have three. You have your transmission line, tax GL. Yeah, for that. Tax GL breakdown listing is what it's called.
Yep.
And so that's what we actually, we print, Michelle can have a name. We print them, and I have a signature stamp. If I make a payable item, then my AP department put the warrant number on.
Okay, you want the easier route? You take that form and you get all your, taxing districts to go ACH, and then you can just email it to them with their, ACH, so, Janelle, come on.
Sorry. So this only works for counties if they have their GL set up through our system. And if you would like help getting your GL set up, we are happy to help you.
Another shameless pitch, GL settlement.
Julie's gonna be like, I have to work already.
So me, I'm always curious about this. How many are not using the GL interface yet? Okay, I would encourage you guys to do that because it makes your life so much easier. I mean, there's a little investment in time to get it set up, but then the next time you can go.
Oh, we do not use the GL setup. They used to, and then they switched to a different system. So what I do is your guys' system does the Excel spreadsheet with your settlements. I take that Excel spreadsheet, I format it, I do everything, and I take the main sheet and I post it on my website, and that's where they can go to get their breakdown. I don't email it to them anymore. It took a while to train them to go to that place to find it, but I think pretty much everybody's on board now, but it is successful on our website.
So you don't use IFS, is that what you're saying when you said you went to a different software?
Yeah, not anymore. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, we switched to Tyler for the financial interface.
So I have a question about the GL portion of it. All of my years, and they say 2025, and I need to update them all.
Talk to CPT, they can do that for you.
Okay. You can't do that, but we can. Send us an email and we can bump it up to like 2050 for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Don't ever set them up to be like a 1 year thing, put 999.
Okay, is that the form 5152 is? Late delinquent notices. And, late delinquent notices and listings. Right?
Yeah.
Late delinquent notices and listings, how are we using those?
Okay, so in my office, okay, so I'm gonna back up a little bit and I'm hoping, unless somebody knows somewhere that I haven't figured out, there is not a statutory requirement to send out a late notice. All of the stuff I know of is tied to when it becomes delinquent. So I think this is maybe where we all get into 87 different ways of who, when, where we send out late notices. I think there's some counties that send them out after first half settlement. I do not. I send one late notice in December. And that's the only one I do. Do we want to know about the talk about late?
Sure, yep.
So we started doing late notices. We didn't used to, but then we did, and we sent them out, date them June 1st, because we started off doing them in May, and then by the time they get it and realize they should pay, they pay May, and then they're already into June, so we just waited and mailed them on June 1st with the June, and they got 30 days to get that in. And then we do it again in October for anybody but ag people, and then just do the ag people in November that haven't paid. And we've been getting, we get a lot of thank yous, because it's the true good taxpayers that care that they're late, and they, thank you for the reminder, so they don't get another couple months penalties like waiting until December. But it is cost, now with postage and stuff, it's something, you probably gotta think about, it's getting more costly to send those letters, and half of them probably ignore them, right? And,
So what do you, I ran now just in preparation for here, and I think I would have had to send out 500 letters. And that would actually, unless I piecemealed them out for people who had other years delinquent, I mean, do you send them out then to tell me, hey, by the way, you're late on your first half 25, and you've got 2 other years fully delinquent. Do you spend your time and county money on that, or do you piecemeal to figure out which ones are truly your good parties that are thankful? Cause like 500 letters and will I get 5 payments?
We get a lot of payments off the letters, but yeah, there is that. I mean, sometimes we don't, I pull out the ones that are on our delinquent list all the time. I'm not sending them another one because they already should know they're delinquent. They haven't been paying for 2 years. Yeah, it's that. What do you do? That we have done it and we collect, I don't know what you say, how do you have a percent of how many actually pay off the letter? There's quite a few. Yeah. So yeah, is it gonna get to where it isn't worth it? Maybe. But for now, we do them.
I think in our new report generator, it would be pretty easy to generate a listing of people who have late but no delinquent. That's not gonna populate your late letters, but that might help you weed out before you mail, if you wanted to do that to mailing. So you're only mailing to people who like, this is their first late, instead of everyone. Anyone else, how often do you send? And
Short. County, if you haven't heard, we sent out 2 states. So this year is different, but normally we send out the letter in December and it's, we do actually do a pretty good response. So that way our January settlements is better than, yeah.
That's what we do too.
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of, that's what we do too, December letters, like, hey, by the way, also, even in December, you can say, hey, by the way, come January, you're gonna owe a whole lot more, yeah, you paid it now. But I have heard some counties say, like, the reason we send out the 3 letters is because if we send out a letter and then, letter back to the second half, and especially the December, like, is going up, is because we have way fewer confession of judgments to deal with, because if you keep them from being delinquent, it's way easier to keep on top of it. So there's the half and half kind of stuff going on.
2 other aspects I thought of around the late letter. One is that what helped reduce our December late letters is we picked up, I think from you, that we sent out a new owner letter that said, hey, congratulations on your purchase. And then tell them whether first half was paid or not, or in that, and to consider that whether you're on escrow or not, and we give them a copy of the tax statement that was not issued to them to start with. And I think that cleaned up some of our people in December that are like, what the heck, I didn't know. And so we've been doing that for 2 years now. So that might be something to consider, because then you get it in front of them faster as a new owner without the expectation that they should have known. And that,
Where do you go, like, you send these every day when somebody buys a property, or like, how do you get this list out, you send them?
well, it's assigned to the same deputy that it makes the name changes in the tax. So they already have that listing that they're working on changing the name. So then from there, we send the letter. We do it the same way. Okay.
We do it, it comes through. Yeah.
Kind of. Right.
When recording the deed, when the deed is recorded, then you.
Delinquents,
Somewhere.
like you gotta pay your, all your taxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do the same thing.
The other thing I do in my December letter is we have, a $5 or less policy that we abate that off the tax system. So I actually run the listing twice, once to clean up my short pays that we missed taking care of throughout the year. So it's like they're $1 short, I abate that off the system, get them out of the list ahead of sending out the late letter. So I don't know if anyone wants.
Did you have to have like a board resolution to?
I don't know, let them try.
I feel like it, I go, do you have to have a board resolution to do that? I don't know, I can.
Why is that $10?
Yeah, I think.
There is another county that has a board resolution for like less than $10, it's like a county policy, a board resolution.
Yeah, we got those, we did the same thing, had the county board pass resolution allow us.
to the $10.
Well, they pay over. Yeah, that is. They pay over. Say they pay $9 over, we're not sending that back. But she's saying that when it's short, well, aren't you shorting your?
Absolutely, I am shorting it, but by the time I spend $1 in postage and envelope, writing a letter, that time I spent it.
You're probably not shorting tax.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. Well, it depends on if they paid it. If they, well, we would have, yes.
Yeah, ours is more like if they're, we're sending them a late penalty letter and they, and then now they didn't pay it by the end of the month. But now, now they owe $1 more, like we're not gonna chase them after another letter.
No, leave it with your first letter.
But I can have those people that would do it forever. And by the time I took care of it after 20 years, they have significant, you know. Cause you know, there's are those visual.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I do have parcels where their tax bill is only $4. I do not abate those. Because they will never ever pay that.
So if their tax bill is less than $10 and they're not paying it, you're not abating that. This
Okay, but what do you want to do? Can you hear us now?
Yeah, Susie's doing it first.
Yeah. Okay, so then we're gonna try to continue on. You can't, they don't see us, so they can hear us. Then we'll get that main computer up, and if we're still recording and they can hear us, so. Where? Okay. Controversial, new owner, abating of, yes. Penalty and or possibly a settlement. Just, it depends on if they paid. Yeah, if they paid short before the due date, they would have penalty on top of that, they. And they could, so. Can you show? I think.
Because we have an over under account where we put all this money, in theory, if somebody underpaid their actual tax bill, you kind of check out an over under to cover it.
Okay.
But we only abate for just to collect the late penalty if they're under. They don't pay the correct amount, like we'll waive, under $10 if they. But
I
we
think
collect the base tax that's right.
the bulk of, it's like what Kit said, I go in and I adjust, I do a payment adjustment where I take it off of penalty and
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
that is not worth sending out.
Recording in progress.
Well, good.
It's not recorded.
Then everything, I'd like to know what everyone charges. Average then.
Like,
For the rate, or are you getting into?
The cost of disadvantage. What do you, like, if we do $30.
I just switched it to 2 minutes here and I didn't.
Yeah.
Bring it to the board.
I had it improved on,
fee schedule.
We have another 170.
city,
And those 35.
35,
We're
40, 30, 50, 30.
Well, what was?
Definitely going to cover. So this was many years, I'm talking many years, so probably early 2000s, we actually had a fee cost study done. And then whoever this arbitrary person that came in was coming to actually track man hours, the paper, the printer ink, blah, blah, blah. And came up at that time, it said it's cost for $70. And the publication cost, and the, when you consider all the late letters you're sending out, all, because we do this 20 years, that was probably 20 years ago, yeah. So we probably could up it yet, and they set it at $70 then.
Interesting. And we don't charge our, obviously our publication fee is what we call ours, and then from there, if they pay us ahead of our cutoff for the first publication, we don't end up putting it on. And so it's an incentive for them to get it paid and save that money. Okay, so
Delinquent letters.
Okay, delinquent notices, I actually, send out 2 sets. So in, the delinquent process, you have to send a letter to be signed by the courts, along with, that it was entered as the case with your delinquent, list and everything. So,
And is that what triggers the forfeiture 3 years later?
that's the beginning of that, right? So we're beginning the process of setting our lien on that taxes, yeah. And that, so, before I get the letter back signed from the courts, which is 1 set, the first year delinquent, that you're gonna get your lien on, I also rerun that same delinquent notice list for all of them that have other years and send those out ahead. So I send 2 sets.
We do the same thing in there.
I'm seeing a lot of you do the same thing. So what I've seen counties telling me they're doing is like, you're sending the not court letter in like January.
Yeah.
Non-first year.
Non-first year, like your unofficial delinquent letter in January to people with first year and ending, saying like, hey, you're delinquent first or again. And for the first year, it's like, if you don't want to be published in the paper, come in and pay this off. It's like your warning letter. And then in March, you're sending, or whatever it is.
Your first publication is supposed to happen before March 19th.
Okay. So end of February, beginning of March, you're sending your official with all the state verbiage letter to those first year delinquents flagging their forfeiture.
Your courts have up to 5 days to get you that letter back. I think there's something with February 5th, so it's February 5th date.
15th?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what you have to have it to the courts to be signed.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the deadline for letters have to be enforced by February 15th, and they have 5 work days to get it back to you. You have to have it out by.
Yeah, and we try to have ours going out by the end of January. So they have at least a month, maybe 5 weeks to get back to us. And that without it being published. Now, also with that, I don't necessarily I don't follow statute in my publication in the newspaper because my county board has enjoyed for 30+ years having the entire delinquent list published. But it obviously costs me a lot of extra money, but we publish every delinquent parcel, not just per. Right. And every time we have our meetings on budget, I bring up, you can save a lot of money if you cut this, and then, like, it, that's the thing.
So you have, when you're saying what you publish, you have a newspaper listing and then like a judgment, like a court listing. And you're saying in the newspaper listing, you do all of your delinquents. You don't do that in the court listing?
The court listing to get the judgment is just the first year delinquent to get your lien. What I publish in the newspaper is the entire delinquent list, because everybody likes to see who's on the verge of forfeiting. Or that grandma gets a hold of so-and-so, like, why are you in here yet?
Peer pressure.
So it's a expensive collection tool.
We just published the first year delinquents, and we have a weird situation in Big Stone where our official newspaper is in Ortonville, but they also own the paper in Clinton. Same owners, and so when they bid to be our official newspaper, they put in there in half for years that they will publish in the Ortonville Independent. But we're also gonna, we'll publish the minutes for free in the Northern Star if you publish the delinquent list. So we kind of threw that around in budget discussion. I didn't really get anywhere yet, so maybe the new person can work on that. But to me, I'm okay with just putting the blurb in that, hey, the delinquent list is on our website in the second paper, but I know that'll be some political discussion.
Fairwell County. So we didn't know anything and didn't have very little guidance in February or January. We knew we had to do it, so we sent out the letters in January. We grouped it all together. Anybody who was delinquent got a letter from whatever they go. We sent the stuff to court. Honestly, I was a few days late. It got scolded, but that's okay. For the paper, I sent them everything, and then they came back and said, historically, you only did the last year. So I changed it real quick and gave them just the 2024 delinquent to save us some money anyway. And everybody was content, and everybody, well, except for we had a lot of people come in and pay off their stuff, but we only did the 100.
No, I don't have a question for anybody. I have kind of a general question probably for CPT. So we always have issues with our newspaper, formatting our delinquent listing. Is there any way that we can get the delinquent listing in the Excel spreadsheet versus how you guys do it in, we can send to the newspaper?
CSV, I think it is CSV file. What goes on that delinquent listing? Could we make it?
It's just their spacing, they mess up, they retype it. It's just,
So-
it's messy.
What it is now is
Is the delinquent listing when we do a newspaper listing?
no, you're saying you get it as a PC file, but it's.
I converted into a Word doc.
Yeah.
You can drop it in the Word over.
Yeah, CSV, the Fairwell County, since it came out as a CSV file, we just opened it in Excel and then just saved it as an Excel file.
Right.
Because you have the save as function. And then we made whatever adjustments our paper told us that they wanted. And then we send it to them and they make different adjustments that they needed, but they got most of it. All the information was there, it was all spaced out. They just needed to tweak whatever for spacing.
She said they maybe need a new paper.
The other thing we do with our publication is after we dump it in Word, we go through and shrink up our legal description. Because some of them have the full meat and bones description in it, and we will, shorten it to be a tract in southeast, northeast containing 8 acres thing. And then we carry it forward from year to year. We look at the prior year to see how we abbreviated it, you know, since it's probably in there the second or third time.
Because you pay by the. Pay by
Yeah, we pay by the end.
you pay by.
I don't know if this is with that one, if you're changing it, why don't you change it in, since your CPT description is not the legal description, it's a tax description. You could change it to your new one and keep it the same way. That way you don't have to do it every year,
That's true.
so.
I'll get my stuff right on that.
All you have to do is copy.
Right, you did it more than after this year then.
Add two and
Good point.
F9 and copy paste.
You are the new Michelle from New York.
Okay, any other questions about delinquent letters or delinquent listings? Okay. Forfeitures. Is there new stuff coming through about forfeitures?
We had a lot of new stuff last year, I hope it's not.
I'm still trying to work through that on this stuff, right?
Anybody have any questions about that? Maybe we can start with that.
Questions about forfeitures?
How are you handling claims?
How are you handling claims?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think possibly what could come from this forfeiture one is earlier this year, we had a discussion about people after a parcel has forfeited, not abating the taxes off their system.
Yeah, that's kind of right. So we're dealing more with the tax side of forfeiture. So like,
So, you're messing up your unpaid tax reports for like schools and everything else like that, because that should have been abated. I think we have a couple of counties that, about that, they were leaving them on for probably coming up with your minimum bid amount that you have to have now. So you probably need to take screenshots of the inquiry screen of what's due.
they run a listing or take some screenshots and then that base those up at the time that you file for forfeiture.
Yeah, before you wipe them out at the end of the year.
Well, I guess my question for Susie too is you have that historically they would be still in 22, 23, 24, 21 historically. So they would still be there even if you abate them in 2025. They're not going to get taken away off that historical inquiry shop, right? Or would they still be on there?
You need to abate them.
Well, I understand that, but you're,
Still on the.
it would still be on the inquiries. I guess that's my question.
Well,
Yeah,
it would be listed in the same place where your payments are. It'll show the amount of tax you abated.
right.
Maybe it depends on the amount of, well, you really don't even need the same detail, because the other piece of that was that people were leaving the taxes on because they had thought that if you received, like when you had the sale, you were applying the sale fund to the taxes on the system, and that is not how that process is at all. That is a separate distribution that has nothing to do with the tax system anymore.
So if I think our conversation went, if the original owner buys this parcel back before it goes to sale, then you go back and you put additions for those abatements, and you let the original owner pay it off like it was just normal tax. But if it goes through the sale, then you take that amount that's owed and you settle it separately. You can't settle it through through taxes. It's not going to the same places. So you do have to go in and abate it off. If the original owner buys it up, then you have to go back and do all those steps of adding it back on. But we're not getting rid of the parcel, we're just abating the taxes. So it's still there in inquiry if you want to go see it. And it's just not gonna be in your like unpaid listing, now it's gonna be in your vacant listing or whatever. But if it goes to the sale, then you're settling that money totally differently.
I think that was the main thing on forfeiture then.
That was definitely a question, yeah. And then I think we talked about this new subject, look, people have other questions. Because it seems like there's been a lot going on with forfeitures lately.
I don't have any other notes for that. It was that.
If we don't have other questions, I have is 218. For the assessors at their meeting, I pulled up, in our new report generator, we have an options page that you can generate with any report that you do. And I pulled a report and it showed you the options page and I signed into report generator and we built that report together based on that options page. And then you have that recorded and you can do that yourself it's a great way to be able to share reports between counties. You can get that options page, send it to another county, easy to build that report. Would you like that demo here before we leave, or is it 218 you want to get out of here? Demo, if it's 218 you want to get out of here, I will not be offended.
Lucy, I have a question. On the report generator, where are we at with the new report generator for the counties?
So we have 2 training dates, future training dates set up currently. We have all but four counties that are either have it or have a future training set up. 2 of those counties I have emailed out to get them trained, and the other 2 we're waiting for some IT stuff. I think we're really close. So our hope is that by the second week of October, everyone will have the new report generator.
Okay, so we were a pilot of that. Is there gonna be an option somewhere or they'll use whatever I was testing through?
So right now, everybody goes and types in CPT RevGen. Everyone does. Once we get everyone over and everyone feels good about it, we'll go in and we'll make it so that like any report generator option you take, we'll send you to the new one. Right now, we're letting people kind of do both. And trying to be clear in our trainings that we go in, when you go live, we go into your old report generator and we pull all those reports and we put it into your new report generator. After that, if you make any changes in the old report generator, they will not be updated. They don't update back and forth. So after that, you really want to be using your new report generator for any changes, it's way better and easier to use. I've not had one person say like, oh no. So once we convert you over, then you're just using your new one. But we do have some people who kind of reference their old, let's see what wrote their reports. I know that it was right here in my old one and they can do that. But I think pretty soon we'll move over to the new. Yes, yep. Grant County is upcoming.
Do we shoot out a Friday for a field trip? Talk about this lunch.
We haven't done anything in person for report. He's asking if we can do a Friday field trip. We haven't done anything in person for report generators, but because right now we're doing like 4 counties at once. So we're like, you're set up on a day with a whole bunch of people and we just pop you through it, we record it, we send it, somebody doesn't come, you can watch it. But you can come have a Friday field trip sitting at my desk anytime you want. We just need to.
Being awesome. You made this plan.
You're having a winery field trip that might be a CPT. But we've talked about like maybe doing offering an in-person, more in-depth option for report generator. Like say you wanted to come here and build your first custom report. Like we'll have a few counties come or a few people come and like we'll walk you through something, or as you're working on it, if there's something like beyond this intro that you'd like to see, totally let us know and we could set that up. Once we get everyone up and running. When will this transfer over to payroll? It will be a little while. So we're using like our report generator is our report generator. But I think it has some similarities to a previous report generator. Is it HR? Don't we have this report generator somewhere else? Like they, that one's like maybe a little bit simpler, but then you kind of have to build ours. So then they'll maybe be able to use the bones of what we have to build another thing, but that's a whole new build thing. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up our report generator here. Going to share my screen. And then sign in here.
Like getting locked in, does Heidi want to offer anything? She was our third panel person, but she was online.
Does Heidi have anything to add? She was able to come today. Facebook is slow, especially when the internet is slow. While it's loading, so I have in my PowerPoint. I have an options page. So here are your options page. Here's what it'll look like. So in report generator, we have a variety of, it's not loading for me. Oh, no, it's working, so, okay. In our report generator, we have a variety of tabs, and a lot of these, sections on our options page go along with those tabs. So we have like sort fields, we have report fields. Over here, these are going to be our summary items. We have filters. These are on the output screen. So if I sign into report generator, see this report. The one thing our options page doesn't have is what type of report it is. I feel like that's something we should add. Does it say on here what type it is? I know that this is an auditor's report. No, this is the treasurer's report. That treasurer's, but we don't have that on here. Do we? I'm making a note to add that. Okay, so I know this is a treasurer report. So if I go into my report generator, I'm going to click new report. And I'm going to make it a treasurer's report. For those of you who haven't seen it, we now have all of our report generators in the same spot. And then, like I said, we have all these tabs, and the different sections of your output are going to relate to different tabs. So if I go back to my report or my options page, I'm going to add these fields. Try to do this. I have parcel. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to grab these fields, and I can either grab them by description or I can grab them by the text name. Parcel, treasurer's parcel number, and then I'm going to say starts with SDED. Oh. Sort of easy. So now I have special assessment record. Special assessment record number, special assessment year. special assessment type code, special assessment current, principal, interest due, special assessment total, remaining, total received, total received. So I'm pulling these report fields. These report fields here, I selected those fields. Fine, okay. So then, I'm gonna go to my print tab, it's going to show me the ones that I selected. If I want them to print a different order, I can. Okay. And we're gonna go to our sort. Here we have our sort. And I sorted by type code. Special assessment type code. Special assessment type.
So you guys don't fix that text where it says treasure with two apostrophes.
Yes, I remember the one apostrophe, two apostrophes, how hard is that to fix? That's the treasurer's parcel number. She says it's down because of the I series, but yeah, that's something that we can look at. Okay, so if I do a special assessment type code, and then I'm going to do ascending and a page and a section break. So here, I'm going to get ascending page and section break. Then if I go to filters, here are my filters. We have some automatic filters. So it's telling me that if I this type, I'm going to do the type, and I'm going to do a range, which will give me a prompt. Now I did an equals here, but that's fine. We're going to do a type filter. Then we have summary. I want special assessment. We're doing counts for special assessment current and total. We're going to do a count. If I did totals, count for current and total. These are going to be my filters. And then my output. I can copy this, like summary only, no. This is landscape, letter, PDF. It's telling me my margins. So I put in, I've remade their report, and I can submit it. And I'm gonna do 0 to, well, I don't actually even know how many I have. We've got it through here. And then when you do this export, if you haven't been trained, it goes to your downloads folder. So we're not going looking in tax bill or searching somewhere online. It's coming straight to your personal computer and going into your downloads folder. Since we started, we've added this cancel button. So if you were to like make a report that you forgot to put a filter on, and then now we're searching like all years, maybe you did a previous year, and you're searching every piece of data you ever dreamed of, you can cancel it if you want to, just go back. But here, we're getting a page break by type code. Here's my 303, 707, and then we're giving. So that's just a quick, like I use this data to put these report fields into the field tab. I put this data into the summary tab. I put this into the sort tab, and then this is my page breaks and stuff that I added in there. We took our filters and then our report options. The way we got this page is by going into this output, and if you click options page, yes, then that first page of your report will be an options page. Or if you're exporting to Excel or as a custom report, we'll give you a zip folder download and you'll have an options page separately. So that's an easy way for you guys to share reports between you. We're also working on ways to be able to build like a standard report that we give everybody. We don't currently have that set up for our report generator. And so that's something that we'll have to work on, but we had talked about maybe trying to do that for like late delinquent notices. If you have like a letter that you love, that you think would benefit other people for that kind of a thing, you can let us know, and we will, see if we can start to put some of those things out there that would be like made by CPT, but you can take it, copy it, make it yours, do what you want with it. Really easy to do that with reports, in our new report generator. Any other questions on that before I let you go? Thank you for coming. Have a safe ride home.